Welcome back guys, Strafe here. Today we're going to be looking at the new floor 12 of the Abyss, which is pretty difficult. So that's why I want to make a little showcase. So the first setup team, we're going to have Ganyu as a carry unit. As you'll see, and Klee is going to be carry unit for team 2. Now the reason for this is because of the last chamber is very difficult. For Ganyu, if you put her in chamber 2, the Ruin Graders just sort of like bulldoze over you. So what I found was that she's better in team 1 where they don't really charge you as much, so Ganyu can just shoot them in the eye pretty easily. And as for the setup, we have Albedo, Chi-Chi, and Sucrose with Ganyu. So Chi-Chi is used here for the healer role, but also for the Cryo Resonance buff, which gives her more crit rate. So that does help out her damage output, makes it more consistent. Albedo is just a turret character here. You could probably swap him for Fischl maybe if you want to use her, or Xiangling, but I put Albedo just because he gives shields to the party. So Geo Element does help out because these guys do a lot of damage. So even though you have a healer but no Geo character, it's going to be very difficult to keep healing damage that they do. You'd have to dodge like crazy because they just keep coming, as you'll see. Now these two new Geo bosses are pretty annoying to deal with because they're very aggressive and they will charge you close range. So this makes using Ganyu pretty tricky, and that's why we have a Geo character with Albedo here. So that you can actually maintain your damage output and do damage without getting knocked all over the place. So having a Geo character is very good. The Noelle would be a decent filler, or Zhongli if you have him, but we have Albedo here, which is pretty decent because you can just forget your turret while Ganyu fires off in the distance. And it's a pretty good synergy between the two characters. And then Chi-Chi's going to be rounding out the Cryo Resonance. Sucrose is going to be buffing Ganyu's damage output with the Viridescent Venerer set, so it's very important. And you'll see we'll clear the first wave pretty comfortably with just under a minute. And as for team 2, we're going to have Klee doing most of the damage here. So the trick with team 2 is to utilize Bennett's ult as much as possible because that's how you get the damage output from the team. You have to stay in the circle, which can be tricky because these guys are, like I said, are very aggressive and they're just going to keep coming at your face. We do have Geo shields from the reactions, but there's no Geo character here, so it's not very consistent. And you'll see like we'll get flopped around a lot quite often. In terms of strategy, just drop all the elemental skills as you can as soon as they're off cooldown. We have Fischl's Oz, we have Xingqiu's Vaporized Swords, and just pop Bennett's ulti, stay in there with Klee and just go to town.
Let's light it up! Everybody stand back! Blow them all up! Yeah.
Now we're going to select the weak point damage just because it's the only floor buff, and Ganyu does utilize it really well in the last chamber, so we'll pick that up here. We're going to be gunning for the Cryo Mage because we don't have a Pyro character. So once she puts up the shield, there's the little trick where you can kill her little flies, and if you do that, her shield drops down. That's how you get rid of it without a Pyro character. But we'll be gunning for her because the Electro Mage does come over from the other side of the map. But the reverse isn't true, so if you go for the Electro Mage instead, the Cryo one stays on the other side, which is very annoying and hurts your time. So group them up, use Sucrose ulti, and just aim with Ganyu, try to kill one of them. And just dish out the damage.
Moment of birth.
Orders given, orders received. Born of ice and frost, this is long overdue.
Now as for the second part, we're going to be gunning for the guy with the aura just because it's very annoying to have flames coming all over you every time. So just try to focus him and take him out. And it's kind of tricky to do that with all the overload procs and he's flying away, going left and right, but just chase him down, stick close to him, drop the Bennett ulti, and eventually you'll kill the enemies. Using Xingqiu and using Klee, the combination of Vaporize is very strong. But again, Klee is going to be necessary for Chamber 3, and that's the main reason why we have a team like this. Even if she's not doing full damage to these Pyro characters, we can still Vaporize using the water swords, and that way she can kind of bypass their resistance, and using Bennett's ulti for sure will help her out by boosting her damage even more.
Everybody stand!
As you wish, me.
Everybody stand back! Get know my sword! Let me weave you a verse. Body and mind. By royal decree, teamwork is sparks and flags. Pew!
Alright, Chamber 3. This one is the doozy to get through because they're dangerous and they're very tanky. So we're going to pick the only one that benefits us is weak points. Because it does help out Ganyu in this first wave. Not so much the second team, but you can just slap the eyes here on these rune guards and just take them out pretty easily. So it definitely is going to be helpful for Ganyu. So we're going to knock him down, get in close, get behind him, and just start sniping them. You can actually just alternate and take him out too. You have to watch your HP and watch these aura geo waves on the bottom because they will kill your Ganyu even with geo shields. So just keep the healing up. That's why we have Chi-Chi. If you get low, just swap characters. Keep your eye on the health. Stay back and shoot them. You'll see they're 2k HP, so we get in close. Drop the Chi-Chi ulti and then you can heal back up by shooting the enemies. Other than that, there's a lot to juggle in this wave because you have the aura attacks on the ground. You have the rune guard attacks jumping all over you. And you have to keep your health up and high. It was very difficult to do, but our team is built very well for it. Ganyu's going to just take him out from afar in a pretty safe distance with plenty of time left. And here we are in the second half of Chamber 3. So we're going to be charging the guy with the aura, getting close to him. Try to charge up Benny's ulti, drop it down, and just basically drop all your elemental skills. Let Klee stay on the field and do damage. And you can dish out the most damage this way, because all of the reaction damage is going to be coming on the floor, being boosted by Bennett's ulti. And Klee's going to be able to hit both of them at the same time because she's AoE damage. Drop the bombs, keep circling around them, getting close. But just be wary when they start to spin. You have to back off or you will die if you get caught inside. But other than that, just dish out the damage and you'll see once the aura guy goes down, it's game over. We do have plenty of time left on the clock. Even though he spins, we still have a lot of time, so you guys might be able to do it even more under geared than my team is. But I'll show you the gear coming up. So hopefully you guys can get the 9 stars too, but if not, you can definitely clear it and get your rewards.
Outlines your fate. Witness the power. Everybody stand. Boing, boing, boom.
Alright guys, so I'm going to show you the artifacts on the characters. I'll go through the important ones rather than going through every single piece. So as for the first team, we have Ganyu as a carry, so having her built as much as possible will definitely help you out in getting the best performance that you can out of your team. So as for our Ganyu, she has a decent attack power here. These are her overall stats: high crit rate, high crit damage, and decent energy recharge, although it's not necessary really for her performance. And of course we're going to have a cryo goblet. As for the weapon, she does have a 5-star rank 1. So it does help her out because she has crit rate and crit damage. But of course if you have Amy's bow, she'll be doing even better. And if you have free to play bow, you could try that. But you may not get 9 stars if you're not as built as I am. So I definitely have a C0 Ganyu. Pretty decent artifact set. But ideally you would want a cryo 2-piece instead of like a noblesse. But definitely attack, sands, cryo goblet, and crit damage or crit rate circlet would be ideal for Ganyu. And that's her build, nothing too crazy. We have Albedo here as a support character. It's easy to build Albedo because he just focuses on defense. So his stats, crit rate, crit damage, he does want that because his blossoms do crit. And you do want energy recharge because his Q comes up pretty quickly. And that way you can spam it and do more damage. As for the weapon, pretty easy to build. It's the free-to-play 3-star weapon. Harbinger of Dawn, easy to get rank 5. Gives you a lot of crit damage, just keep his HP high. And he'll be dishing out the defense damage. As for artifact set, 2-piece Archaic and 2-piece Noblesse is pretty good on him. And we want a defense Sands because he scales off of defense, his Blossoms. Geo bonus for sure on the Goblet. I have a 4-piece because I didn't want to spend too much time and too much resin farming. And then I have attack for the Circlet. Now he doesn't really scale off of attack. His Q does scale off of attack. And my Albedo is actually at Constellation 2. So the extra attack does help him out. But if your Albedo is a C0, just a normal Albedo without any Constellation, then you could probably opt for a crit rate, crit damage, or in a defense Circlet, and he'd be doing just fine. He'll still be doing pretty good support. And then as for Chi-Chi, nothing too crazy for Chi-Chi, very low crit rate, crit damage. You just want energy recharge for her. And we don't even care about the Cryo Goblet here. As for the weapon, just give her any weapon that gives her attack. The only sword I have to spare was just this Lion's Roar here. Everything else is equipped. Sacrificial is better on Xingqiu, I would say, because of its elemental skill. Has such a long cooldown, he requires the energy particles. So I would rather give that to him. And then the Festering is really good on Bennett for the energy recharge main stat. So just give Chi-Chi any spare sword with attack secondary, and she can do her healing role pretty fine. As for ideal artifacts, yeah, she's not really built. You can see she has 4 stars. But I would say anything with attack. Gladiator and Braveheart would be pretty good. 2-piece Gladiator and 2-piece Noblesse or something like that would be pretty good. And no constellations on Chi-Chi. Moving on to Sucrose. Nothing too insane with her build. She has crit rate and crit damage because I got rolls on the substats, but those aren't necessary. What you really want is energy recharge on Sucrose. And animal damage Goblet. And then anything with Elemental Mastery would be good in terms of substats. But you definitely want a 4-piece very distant for the swirl damage resistance lowering. You know, once you do a reaction, she lowers the resistance. So definitely 4-piece is recommended. And then I went for energy recharge because you really want her Q to be up as much as possible. Some people opt for Elemental Mastery, but I feel like 1 Elemental Mastery on the Circlet is good enough. And you want animal damage for the Goblet, so that she's doing consistent damage. So I feel like even though this is only like 200 EM, it's not like 450 or something crazy. It is more balanced and more versatile than the other setups. And you don't need too much Elemental Mastery. You can see this is already almost double the damage. Almost 100% extra damage from reaction. So even though she does give more Elemental Mastery to your party based off her own, I feel like she's more balanced, especially if you're not running a second animal character. Like I'm showcasing here, we don't have a Jean, we don't have a Venti or a Zhao paired with Sucrose, so she's going to be needing as much energy recharge as possible. And she is actually C6, so you can see these are level 6 talents plus 3. She's a C6, definitely a very, very strong candidate. But not too hard to build. And this damage bonus is pretty good for... We're going for the Ganyu carry, so once Ganyu shoots, and then we use the Q, she gets 20% more damage, which is very, very strong. Now that's team 1. As for team 2, we have the carry character is Klee. She has a pretty high attack stat, 2400. Pretty decent crit rate, crit damage. Injury recharge is okay as well, but she doesn't really need that. And pyro damage is at 90%, but she has Ascension of pyro damage. As for the weapon, we have a 5-star weapon here, Skyward Atlas. So definitely boosts her attack stat to insane levels, which does help because she's the carry character for team 2. As for artifacts, the best I would say is Crimson Witch 4-piece. She doesn't have any constellations, but the way you build Klee is just normal. Attack on your sands, elemental damage on your goblet, crit rate or crit damage on your circlet. Pretty simple to build, and then it's just a matter of getting lucky with the substats for crit rate, crit damage. As for Xingqiu here, pretty low attack I would say, but energy recharge is the main stat that we care about because you want his Q up as much as possible. So you can do vaporize reactions with Klee or Diluc. Or you can do a freeze team even with Ganyu, but that's harder to use. So that's why I don't pair the two together. And we have Hydro Damage Goblet, as you can see here. Nothing crazy. Sacrificial is the best sword for him. You get an extra charge of his E, so he can solo queue up his elemental burst by himself with the particles. And then I give him a 4-piece Noblesse because that's what I wanted to buff the party, so he has an attack Sands, he has Hydro Goblet here, and a crit damage Circlet. And he's a C2, which does help out because you lower enemies' resistance by 15% for Hydro. And then we have Bennett coming up. Bennett is very, very similar to build. You want to focus on energy recharge the most.
Assemble!
And then you want a healing bonus on the Circlet to give the most healing possible. So we're not going to get a Pyro Goblet this time. And as for the weapon, we give him Festering because that gives him energy recharge. So it's really nice on Bennett. He doesn't need a faster cooldown on E because it's such a fast skill to use. It's at level 1 for me, plus 3 from the Constellation, but the cooldown is very, very low, 5 seconds, so you don't need any more Sacrificial Sword on him. Just give him energy recharge. As for artifacts, he's not really have a set piece. I just gave him the best stats I could find, which is healing bonus here on the Circlet, HP for more healing, for his Q healing, energy recharge Sands so that he gets his Q up faster, and then whatever the best energy recharge stats you could find on a Feather and Flower would be the best here. As for Constellation, I do have him at C6, and I do think it's worth it for elemental teams such as Klee or Diluc or Ganyu, because those characters don't really care about infusion. Even Zhao, who has infusion, they don't care about getting overwritten. So you would have to use characters like Razor or Shangling for it to actually affect your performance, and those characters aren't really endgame carry options, I would say. So it's better to go C6 to gain this 15% extra pyro damage infusion and use them in the pyro team ideally. And then the last slot we have Fischl. She's not built that well either. She only has like 1400 attack, decent energy recharge, electro damage Goblet. As for the weapon, Favonius was the only spare one. She can use any bow. I would say Rustwood's good too because it gives you secondary of attack. Even though she's not auto-attacking, she can still get the more damage from Oz having more attack. But energy recharge is decent too because her Q will come up faster. And Thundering 4-piece set would be pretty good ideally for her, I'd say, because in a support role you want your E up as much as possible, and her cooldown is really, really long. So that's why I opted for a 4-piece Thundering. But we're going to go with attack Sands, electro damage Goblet, and a crit rate Circlet because it doesn't have a crit weapon. So nothing crazy, nothing abnormal about her. She is C4, which does help her out for damage, helps out Oz's damage. But yeah, that's the builds for the team, guys, and hopefully you guys can get the 9 stars too on your attempts. If your characters aren't as built, then you may not get 9 stars, but at least you'll be able to clear floor 12 and get, you know, some rewards out of it. And then eventually you can build them with better artifacts along the way, better weapons as you pick up. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Give it a like if you did, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.